Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney, retired. None of what follows is legal advice. I'm here to do some video for you today to talk about an interesting subject on the law, and here it is. So today, let's have a little bit of fun. I don't really reveal too much of my fun-loving self on here. Usually it's all law and logic and that kind of stuff, and I know that gets old and tired after a while, so maybe you get a chance to learn a little something about me. First of all, I like to make people laugh, and I enjoy it when other people do laugh, but I don't ever intentionally try to scare anybody. I know other people that do, and I have a story about that we'll tell here in a minute. But normally, my idea of fun isn't making somebody else lose their lunch because, they've had a panic attack or something. Several months ago, we had a very annoying bird at our front door. And the bird would fly up to the window and it would peck at its reflection, trying to drive off what it considered to be another predator in its area. So it felt like, you're sitting in the living room and somebody's tapping on your front door. After a while, you begin to wonder if you're losing your mind, but we weren't. The bird was just very persistent. In the garage, when we had that happen, we had a cardinal that kept pecking at the glass. My wife put up a Xerox copy of a black cat, and she put the little googly eyes that you can get at Hobby Lobby. She glued that on the piece of paper, and the bird went away. We never dealt with it again because it thought there was a black cat living there that could get it. So it flew away. So I thought, that's a really good idea, but I didn't really feel like a black cat would be up on top of my door. And so this is a solution that we adopted. So as you walk up to my door, you walk up and you see your regular standard door here, and there's the window that kept being pecked on, and oh, what's that up there at the top? Well, that is my anti-bird patrol right there. Well, since that time, we've had a number of people, one of whom who came to the door to deliver a little thing on behalf of the women's club that my wife is part of. And it was a solicitation to donate money. So I wasn't too upset that it didn't get delivered. But the woman ran back to the person that sent her and said, "There's no way I'm going over there ever again. You can't make me." Because she got up and she saw Cletus. And Cletus scared the heck out of her, and she never came back. Just recently, we had these folks who really weren't bothered about it until the person who was training his replacement happened to notice what was above the door. I don't know if that's real or not. Go lie down. No, I should probably put a sign up, but we had this bird that kept pecking on that darn glass. Yes. And so it's a rubber snake. We call him Cletus the Copperhead. That scared the mess out of me. I'm sorry. I brought up underneath it and I looked up and I said, "Oh my goodness." I didn't want to say that. So I had to come out and explain to them that no, there wasn't any real snake up there. The snake wasn't moving. It just sits up there. But you would be amazed at the number of people that can't tell the difference between a real snake and a rubber snake. Since people can't tell the difference between a real snake and a rubber snake, I also put one in the floorboard of my truck in the event that I ever leave the darn thing unlocked, because I can assure you that if anybody ever tries to break into that truck and they see that rather realistic looking rattlesnake sitting on the bottom of the floorboard there, they are going to be in the next county before they stop running. Day in the life of your average car burglar. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's locked. Nobody looking there. Nobody looking there. We'll just have to get down here and see what's in this car. Oh, look, it's on. Because most people are pretty scared of rattlesnakes. So I thought that was kind of funny. I thought I'd share that. And then the other thing that I wanted to share was my favorite story that involves a spooky theme of dead people, People do seem to be afraid of dead people, which makes absolutely no sense given the fact that dead people are pretty much unable to hurt you. I mean, unless they died from bubonic plague and you're in there giving them mouth to mouth, I don't think there's probably too much to worry about. We had, when I worked at Our Lady of Perpetual Billing Hospital in Florida, I'll just put it that way. You know, Florida is considered to be God's waiting room. We, I worked there as a respiratory therapist, and respiratory therapists are just a little bit different. Now, I don't want anybody to think that I'm impugning the ability or integrity of respiratory therapists because I'm not. But when you deal with mucus all day, you have to be a little different from people who find that kind of thing rather gross. And, you know, we sort of lovingly call each other snot jockeys. Like I said, just a half a bubble off. And so we have an odd sense of humor. And of course, because respiratory therapists are involved in almost every code blue incident in a hospital, managing the airway, in most cases, we sort of have develop a gallows sense of humor. And we had a respiratory therapist, I'll call her Kay, who had that sort of warped sense of humor that respiratory therapists have. And she noticed that after they moved the morgue, the temporary morgue, I should say, to the place right next to the emergency room, that the lady who cleaned the emergency room and that part of the hallway, and they always did this on the 3 to 11 shift, you're less likely to have somebody tracking in blood or anything like that during that period of time. Particularly if they're going to the emergency room, they just go on into the emergency room. But down from the emergency room, one door down, was this what used to be a storage area that they converted into a temporary morgue until such time as they could take people down to the real morgue. Now, they didn't leave them in there, but maybe half an hour to an hour. But nevertheless, there would occasionally be people laying there in the temporary morgue, and this lady would have to go in and clean. And Kay explained that when she saw this lady was mopping like this, looking over her shoulder, right and left, trying to figure out if those people were really dead. So she had the brilliant idea to go in and cover herself up with a sheet while this lady was cleaning an ER, because she knew that right about 7:15 or so, this woman would be in to clean this room. And basically all she did was mop it because there was just gurneys and that was it. So she covered herself up under the gurney, and as the lady was mopping the floor, Kay stood up and the sheet fell down and she said, "You missed a spot." And she said that woman didn't stop screaming for at least 15 feet down the road. She was still screaming, and she ran as fast and as far as she could. And unfortunately, that upset her. It upset her boss. There was a big brouhaha about that. And Kay wound up being suspended for a couple of days for this indiscretion. But it sort of reveals to you a little bit, I guess, of how my strange sense of humor works, and what I would not have done that. I personally wouldn't have done that because I believe in being kind to people. But I thought I couldn't help but laugh because the poor lady was scared, and I'm sure that it was probably a pretty traumatic experience for her. Sort of like the people who come up to my front door. We're going to have to post a sign up there that says Cletus isn't real because birds can't read. Uh, at least I don't know of any birds that can read. I guess Big Bird can read, but that would be the only one. So here's the deal. To celebrate my finally reaching 20,000 subscribers, and thank you to all of you for that, here's what I'd like for you to do. I would like for you in the comments or by email to share with me something that you think is the funniest story from your work experience. And it can be funny, or it can be scary. It can be anything you want. I would like to add a little bit of air of levity to the channel. We're approaching Halloween, and it's a time for a little bit of mischief. The gremlins are out, and sometimes the gremlins are even in your computer, as we all know. So if you would do that for me, we'll have a video where we go through some of those and we talk about them. And I just thought you guys would find that something that would be interesting. And after we're done, I will choose as many of those as I can get into a 15 to 20 minute video. and we'll go through them. And then we'll have, I guess, a vote on the ones that people like the best, mine excluded. And whoever wins that will set it up so that you can get a copy of one of my books. And this is the book. You can't buy it anymore, I don't believe, because it's out of print. It's with Jones and Bartlett Publishers, but it's called Legal First Aid, a guide for healthcare professionals. And I wrote it. And it has some interesting information in it, how to deal with lawsuits and documentation. Respiratory therapists are big on documentation, but it applies in pretty much any business where you have to make a record of something that might come back to haunt you legally. So I will send a copy of this book to whoever it is that produces the funniest story that we get here on the channel. And again, it's a deviation from our usual legal stuff, but every now and again, you got to be a little human. You got to laugh a little bit. I always said when I was doing presentations for respiratory therapists and nurses and doctors that if you can't laugh, you can't learn. People who laugh naturally, they sort of pull in the information better than if they have to sit there through a boring presentation. So I do like to make people laugh, and I hope you'll join me in this little endeavor. And again, to all the people who have subscribed, to all the people who have left messages, whether I have responded directly to you or not, I appreciate the messages. I even appreciate some of the ones who aren't particularly fond of me leaving messages because it helps the channel. But thank you again, and we'll have an opportunity to do that shortly. If you get the chance today, do something nice for somebody. Don't scare the dickens out of them if you can avoid it. And then come on back down here tomorrow. We'll talk about something else down here at the beach. Have a great day, guys. Hey, as I said at the beginning, none of what I said is legal advice. But let me tell you what, the stuff that's going to be right up here, these are the things that YouTube thinks you might be interested in going forward. Have a terrific day.